Look, if you're over 45, high-achieving, and taking your health seriously, I know your morning routine. It's about optimizing performance. A rigorous HIIT session, heavy resistance training pushing your physical limits, followed by a shock-to-the-system cold plunge. You feel invincible. But what if I told you this exact elite protocol, the habits you rely on to build an ironclad cardiovascular system, might be quietly setting the stage for a catastrophic 10-second cardiovascular event? Here is the truly terrifying reality about what to do in the moment of crisis. You must avoid the aspirin trap. Imagine this. After heavy deadlifts or a cold plunge, a violent, agonizing explosion in your chest drops you to your knees. Your immediate thought? It's a heart attack. The conventional wisdom says chew aspirin to thin the blood and dissolve a clot. But if you're experiencing the hidden crisis I'm revealing, chewing aspirin is like throwing high-octane gasoline onto a blazing inferno. We need to understand the difference between a standard heart attack and this vastly more aggressive, hidden killer that targets the seemingly fit. We are absolutely not talking about a standard myocardial infarction. This silent killer weaponizes your healthy high-pressure habits. The hidden executioner is an acute aortic dissection. It's the ultimate cardiovascular nightmare that can physically tear your life apart in under 10 seconds. Let's unpack the cutting-edge hemodynamics. Your aorta is the primary superhighway, taking high-pressure blood directly out of your heart. Imagine the sheer, immense hydraulic force crashing against the walls of that massive, thick-walled artery every single second of your life. Now, combine that relentless natural force with the extreme, sudden blood pressure spikes from your heavy lifting, intense breath holding, or the massive vasoconstriction triggered by your daily ice bath. You think you are making your system stronger, but if you have a hidden vulnerability, you are inducing microscopic, cumulative shear stress, metal fatigue in the carbon fiber-like walls of your aorta. And when that inner lining finally gives way, the aortic wall rips open in seconds. The consequences are immediate and often irreversible. Understanding this risk is the first step in protecting yourself. But don't go yet. I have 2 crucial action items for you. First, if you want real, hard-hitting medical science and not just recycled internet myths, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Let me bring this abstract concept into reality with the case of Marcus, a successful executive whose relentless pursuit of health almost cost him everything. Marcus is 55, a tech executive, and by all conventional metrics, an absolute specimen of human health. He truly believed he had outsmarted aging. He's the quintessential biohacker, tracking sleep, doing strict intermittent fasting, maintaining single-digit body fat, and crushing heavy resistance training. Last Thursday, Marcus was going through his usual, meticulously planned high-performance protocol. Every step was calculated for maximum optimization. He woke up, drank his black espresso, and stepped into his custom-built 39-degree cold plunge for exactly 3 minutes, feeling energized and dopamine surging. Mechanically, the extreme thermal shock caused massive, instantaneous vasoconstriction, forcing his entire arterial network to clamp down hard to preserve core body heat. About an hour later, Marcus was at his exclusive country club. This is where his extreme health choices converged into a catastrophic moment. Standing on the first tee, he took a massive breath, violently braced his core, a biomechanical breathing technique we call the Valsalva maneuver, and unleashed a powerful 115-mile-per-hour golf swing. At the apex of that explosive swing, a catastrophic, high-velocity pressure wave slammed into the wall of his ascending aorta. A microscopic vulnerability, created by years of cumulative shear stress from extreme blood pressure fluctuations, finally surrendered. It tore open. An aortic dissection. Marcus instantly collapsed. But listen closely, because his symptom profile led to a deadly misdiagnosis. He didn't feel the crushing weight on his chest, the classic sign of a heart attack. No, the pain was profoundly different. He described the pain as feeling like a samurai sword violently driven directly between his shoulder blades. A sudden tearing, ripping sensation, reaching maximum intensity immediately. Panicked, his partners thought heart attack and rushed to give him a baby aspirin. They were genuinely trying to save his life. But by thinning his blood while his aorta was actively bleeding, they inadvertently accelerated the internal hemorrhage. Let's look at the consequence and the lesson learned. The aspirin poured gasoline on the fire. It made the active bleed worse, accelerating the internal hemorrhage. After a brutal 12-hour emergency open-heart surgery, Marcus barely survived. But his life and his athletic identity will never be the same. His relentless pursuit of extreme health pushed his vascular elasticity past its absolute breaking point. We need to rethink what healthy means. To understand why Marcus's optimized body betrayed him, we have to look at the absolute bleeding edge of cardiovascular physics. For decades, standard medicine relied on resting blood pressure. A quick cuff squeeze, 120/80, and you're told you're healthy. But this is a dangerously incomplete picture. Groundbreaking research in top-tier medical journals has completely shattered our understanding of how major arteries actually fail in dynamic, highly stressed individuals like Marcus. The true scientific frontier has moved far beyond average blood pressure. Today, we're focusing on a hidden, terrifying danger: aortic dissection. Top researchers are now laser-focused on hemodynamics and blood pressure variability, or BPV. This is the new frontier of cardiovascular health. Your aorta is not just some dumb, inanimate plumbing pipe. It is a highly sophisticated, neurologically active organ with an incredibly sensitive inner lining called the endothelium. This lining is constantly calculating the microscopic friction of the blood rushing past it. We call this fluid friction shear stress. It's the biomechanical force blood exerts on your aortic wall every time your heart beats. When you intentionally command your body to generate massive, instantaneous pressure spikes, you violently force your cardiovascular system to its absolute maximal capacity in a fraction of a second. Activities like forcefully holding your breath under a heavy barbell, known as the Valsalva maneuver, or shocking your system with a freezing cold plunge, induce these extreme pressure deltas. The latest hemodynamic data reveals a dark truth. If the elastin fibers in your arterial walls have lost even a tiny percentage of their youthful pliability, a biochemical reality beginning around age 45, these sudden pressure spikes do not build resilience. They induce microscopic trauma. Instead of building strength, this repeated shock accumulates profound structural fatigue deep within the protein matrix of the vessel wall, quietly developing microscopic fractures. Stop visualizing your aorta as an aging, rusty iron pipe. Think of it instead like an incredibly strong, high-frequency vibrating carbon fiber mast on an elite racing yacht. It's built to handle steady loads, not violent shocks. If you relentlessly subject that carbon fiber to violent, jerky, unpredictable hemodynamic shock waves, it accumulates profound structural fatigue and develops microscopic fractures deep within the vessel wall. The terrifying part? This degradation is completely invisible to standard cholesterol tests, standard EKGs, and standard blood panels. This is exactly why the conventional healthcare system misses this ticking time bomb until it detonates. Your cardiologist is looking at the chemistry of the blood, checking for plaque buildup, but completely ignoring the brutal physics of the vessel wall. Both are vital, but physics is often missed. A patient can have perfect chemistry, a flawless lipid panel, but if their hemodynamics, the physics of blood flow, are a disaster, the risk remains catastrophic. This brings us to the devastating 10-second window of an acute aortic dissection. When one of those microscopic fractures finally compromises the inner lining of the aorta, it creates a tiny, almost imperceptible flap. The high-velocity blood catches the lip of that tear and acts like a wedge, violently ripping its way directly between the muscular layers of the aortic wall, creating a secondary deadly channel we call a false lumen. This catastrophic structural failure happens at lightning speed. Within 10 seconds, that tear can travel down your body, systematically cutting off the vital blood supply to your brain, your kidneys, and your spinal cord. This mechanical process is why the pain is instant and why it reaches its absolute maximal intensity at the very first second. Patients describe the feeling of a samurai sword slicing through their back. It is literally the real-time physical sensation of your body's main structural pillar tearing itself apart from the inside out. Welcome! We're diving into 3 crucial microhabits to protect your heart while you continue to challenge your body with heavy resistance training. I understand that recent information about lifting weights and cardiovascular risk can sound terrifying, but a healthy dose of fear often leads to intelligent adaptation. The goal here is never to leave you paralyzed by health anxiety or to suggest you stop lifting weights entirely. My mission is to arm you with the absolute bleeding edge of actionable medical intelligence. The answer is not to retreat into a fragile existence. Instead, the answer is to become vastly more sophisticated and scientifically precise in how you load your cardiovascular system. Microhabit number 1. You must implement what I call the hemodynamic morning buffer protocol. When you first wake up, your sympathetic nervous system is kicking online, cortisol is peaking, and blood pressure is naturally surging. Immediately compounding that with black espresso or a cold plunge is redlining a cold engine. Instead, insert a strict, non-negotiable 45-minute buffer into your morning before any intense thermal or physical stress. During this buffer, wake up, hydrate deeply with high-quality, mineral-rich electrolytes to optimize blood volume, and engage in gentle, dynamic movement. You must allow your vascular endothelium, the delicate inner lining of your arteries, adequate time to wake up, produce protective nitric oxide, expand, and fully stabilize. Microhabit number 2. We need to fundamentally rewrite your biomechanical breathing software from the ground up. This is absolutely critical for anyone, especially over the age of 45, doing any form of heavy resistance training. You have to absolutely eradicate the traditional Valsalva maneuver, holding your breath and bearing down violently during a lift, which creates a catastrophic pressure bomb against your ascending aorta. Instead, master continuous metered exhalation. When actively pushing the weight, you must be actively blowing the air out through pursed lips, like inflating a highly resistant balloon. This simple mechanical shift acts exactly like a high-performance release valve. It instantly dissipates that lethal transient spike in vascular pressure, protecting your aorta while maintaining core stability. Microhabit number 3. Upgrade your entire paradigm of data tracking to what we call dynamic pulse pressure monitoring. I need you to throw away the outdated, simplistic notion of just looking at the average of your blood pressure numbers. Instead, start looking hyper closely at the mathematical gap between your top number, the systolic, and your bottom number, the diastolic. This specific numerical gap is your pulse pressure, a vital metric for understanding your cardiovascular risk. By adopting these 3 microhabits, you move from basic training to scientifically precise, longevity-focused performance. Remember, implement the morning buffer, master continuous exhalation during heavy lifts, and monitor your dynamic pulse pressure.
You now have the actionable medical intelligence to challenge your biology, continue lifting heavy, and protect your most vital organ. Train smarter, live longer. If your blood pressure is 120/80, your pulse pressure is exactly 40. That is generally considered highly optimal and mechanically sound. But what if that number starts to widen? Pulse pressure is the difference between your systolic and diastolic blood pressure. It's a number we must start paying close attention to. Optimal is a pulse pressure of 40, like 120/80. But if you're sitting at 150/70, your pulse pressure has massively expanded to 80. A persistently widening pulse pressure is one of the most powerful yet criminally ignored clinical indicators of advanced arterial stiffness. It mathematically and physically proves that your aorta is actively losing its youthful elastin fibers. Your aorta is slowly transforming into a rigid, unyielding, calcified pipe, a significant structural change in your main artery. When the pipe gets rigid, the mechanical stress within your vascular system multiplies exponentially. This is a critical structural vulnerability. When the pipe gets rigid, the shear stress on the vessel walls multiplies exponentially, rapidly increasing the wear and tear. If you see that gap consistently expanding over time, you are actively developing the exact structural vulnerability that eventually leads to a catastrophic aortic dissection. We must establish some absolute, non-negotiable ground rules here. First and foremost, track this pulse pressure number weekly. Make it a habit to monitor your blood pressure and calculate your pulse pressure every week to establish a trend. If you see that gap consistently expanding over time, it's a clear signal that structural changes are occurring. The cutting-edge medical science and hemodynamic theories we have discussed provide a powerful new perspective on arterial aging and long-term longevity. Here is the uncompromising truth. Every single one of us possesses a completely unique genetic password. Some have undiagnosed mild connective tissue disorders. Our baseline vascular elasticity, our endothelial function, and our response to stress vary wildly from person to person. Before adjusting any long-term medication or treatment plan, be sure to bring this latest research to a deep discussion with your primary physician. Do not attempt to radically alter your high-intensity training regimens or abandon your prescribed blood pressure medications based solely on internet research. Bring this exact concept of pulse pressure and shear stress to your primary care physician or your cardiologist and have a deep, personalized, mathematically driven discussion about your specific risk profile. If this video shattered your old assumptions and gave you a powerful new tool for your longevity arsenal, you need to hit that like button right now. Share this specific video with that one hard-charging, high-achieving friend or family member who thinks they are absolutely invincible. You might literally save their life today by giving them this data. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a briefing. I will see you in the next deep dive.